Welcome to the Jaybe Font channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. Wrong one. Welcome to the Jaybe Show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see you all here on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. It is July 6, 2025. Good to see all of you joining me here, folks. Good to have you with us. Just to let you guys know that the Jaybe channel is the Jaybe Show is every single Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also see me on the Savvy and JB Show on Thursdays, and you guys can see me on my own channel, on the JB Font channel. That's linked in the description down below. So if you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. This helps me out very much to be able to reach more people and get more eyes so that people see what's really going on within the Imperial Corps. So thank you so very much for that. We really appreciate it here at the Revolutionary Blackout Network. Also, if you guys have you considered sharing and subscribing? Go ahead. That also helps us out too. You guys can join our mailing list at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever we go live or upload any clips, so you guys have that there as well. If you guys like to reach us, you guys can reach us at revolutionaryblackout@outlook.com. So you have that there as well. So thank you so very much for that. Good to see every single one of you. I hope you guys had a great holiday weekend. If you chose to celebrate, some of us chose not to celebrate, and that is cool too. But I just wanted to say that, you know, a lot of things are happening for this show today, especially over the weekend, and there's a lot of news to cover. Of course, there's going to be other news that's going to be happening throughout the week that will be covered by people like Nick and Rome and myself and Sabby. So we will be getting into that promptly as much as we can, because there's a lot coming out. It's almost like being a fighter in the ring with Mike Tyson. We're just like, you know, they got to bob and weave, you know, just to, you know, for all the stories, you know, just coming at us. So thank you very much for your patience. There's a lot coming out, so we're getting to it as soon as we can get our hands on it. Okay. So with that being said, let's say hello to everybody that's in the chat and give our greetings and salutations. We're going to make this kind of quick because I want to make sure that we get to these stories as soon as possible, because I'm a little bit tardy, you know what I mean? So, all right. So we starting off with Sarina says, Queen of the Chickens. Says, greetings. I also said chickens, comrades. I'm so silly. Greetings, comrades. Lots of bad news lately, from the floods to the big, beautiful bill passing to the Microsoft layoffs. Oh, yeah, I'll be talking about that on Tuesday. It's all just too much to list. I could feel the lack of celebration this year on the 4th. Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest with you, you're right. There's a lot of, when an empire is in decline, there is less morale among the masses, right? The masses are less likely to celebrate because, you know, a lot of people are not doing so well. Being where I live, the hood, fireworks typically go off early and they keep going off for days after, right? And so on Friday, on the 4th of July, I was expecting to hear a ton of fireworks all night long. I went for a walk around the neighborhood, and yes, there were definitely fireworks going off even before it got dark. But then, I don't know, I fell asleep and I wasn't awakened by any fireworks. Like by the time 9, 10 p.m. hit, it was over. Which is weird, because in the hood, fireworks be going off until like midnight, 1 a.m. People are broke. People don't have money to burn. And with fireworks, that's money you're burning. And people ain't spending it. So, yeah. Not as celebratory as we used to be, right? All right, let's go to the next one. What's the point? Says the floods were due to them releasing water from the dam. I'm not sure exactly about that. That's not what I read. And so It continues, says they release water to avoid damage to the rich people's lakefront property. On their end, the dam is something like 300 feet wide, but when it gets down to the river, it's just like 30 feet wide. That could very well be a possibility. I didn't see that in any reports, but it wouldn't be surprising to me because, of course, they want to protect the richest property as well. So yeah, they will be likely to do something like that. I smell, the corporate, dictators and the super affluent doing something like that or pushing for something like that to be done to save their property values. Whereas the property values of the people who are less than, who they deem less than, their properties and their lives are not worth as much. We have Kevin coming and saying the forward party evolution. Oh my Lord, this is good. Yeah, it's going to be. History may not repeat itself, but it damn sure rhymes. That's all I got to say. John Kemper coming in saying peace, love, and solidarity. Good to see you, John Kemper, aka Blue Marble, coming up in here. We have Samantha says, you can't convince me the flood in Texas is natural. 100% cloud seeding and weather manipulation. BlackRock land grab coming soon. That's interesting. I saw recently a young gentleman making the case for a cloud seeding company here in Florida. And something in me was like, that doesn't sound right. Like there's gotta be some environmental blowback that will happen from that, because you're playing with the natural order of things. It's like things should be reset in their natural way, not necessarily forced by human hands, right? Because it can ruin the balance. It kind of like reminds me of people who say we just need to plant more trees, right? While the motivation is, admirable, you can't just plant trees and think, oh, well, that's good enough. You have to really, and comes with why you should have knowledge from indigenous cultures, is that what plants are native to the area, where should they go, when they should be planted, and so on and so forth. Not that you just plant random trees. With that being said, cloud seeding with its its intentions to do the right thing, right? It could also present environmental issues like we're about to discuss for the human population, number one. It could present environmental issues for the natural ecosystem of an area. And so therefore, when we went the opposite direction, especially with the onset of fossil fuels, with making climate change more prevalent. With that being said, then now we're trying to fix it, but the thing is like you have to fix it the right way. And the problem is we're just trying to duct tape it together. Look, you can duct tape it all you want, but it's still going to eventually fall apart, or it might even get worse. And that's one of the biggest issues I see with some ideas. It's like we're not listening to the people who were the original stewards of the land. So we're trying to do it our own way. Whereas the original stewards of the land were like, no, we should just go back to this, how we did it before. But then you get some people with the Western civilization mindset, where they will think that, oh, well, these cultures, these indigenous cultures were primitive, when in reality they were far more advanced than we give them credit for. So much far more advanced that things were better when they were the stewards versus us. I'm just saying. All right, so let's go to Terry Connolly. Says, good afternoon, JB and comrades. Good to see you. All right. Good to see all these beautiful people in here. We have Nocturnal Humans saying good morning. Well, good morning to you, wherever you are. Let me see. Roger Meadows says, don't forget the 75 Billboard next Sab and JB show. I'm going to have to propose that to Sabs because let's see what she thinks. But I didn't want to bother her too much because she's on a little bit of a staycation right now. So wanted to make sure that, I don't bother her too much. Miranda says, hi, everyone. Good to see you, Miranda. Let me see. I would say Fat Man TV says, good morning, JB. Okay, great. Let me see. James Starks from one James to another. How you doing, James? Says, hello, JB. I hope you're having a great holiday weekend. Please like and share, subscribe. Thank you so very much for that. Cristino says, dry out the moisture. Krista, thank you so very much for the super chat. Says, CKBTX website to donate to flood victims. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Thank you very much, Krista. Let me star that as well. Okay, sorry, start. Okay, thank you very much for that, Krista. Let me see. Pulling the Strings says they gave Israel $300 million to rebuild after Iran pounded them. I wonder how much Texas will get. $700 each again. Yeah, that was crazy with what they did there. And let's hope that they do something much better, but I highly doubt it. Yeah. Let me see. Sonic Warhol says it's how building a dam can flood the nearby land. Yeah, that's also another factor. Sometimes we'll build dams and it does not help. We think that we're beavers, baby. We're not. We're not beavers. Oh my goodness. Scorchy says, as crime doesn't pay about crime pays, but botany doesn't, about planting indigenous plants and killing your lawn. Interesting. I know, like, that's one thing I have a gripe with. Like, if I were a homeowner, I would be fighting right now to replace my front lawn with something that I wouldn't need to maintain. Like, me personally, because I'm not a big fan of like cactuses and stuff, even though they require little to no maintenance and not that much water. But depending on where I live, I would probably just have full of wildflowers. I would probably just have that, but that's pretty much what I would do. Ani Shah coming in and saying, good afternoon, JB and RBN fam from Uruguay. Good to see you from Uruguay. GP says, hey, fellow Floridian. Hello, GP. Good to see you. Lady Alice coming in the chat saying, greetings from Turtle Island, New Mexico. Good to see you, Lady Alex. Is that a new profile picture? Look at you coming in with the new. All right. Let me see. And Jacqueline says, greetings from Normal Island, where we arrest an 83-year-old woman for holding a sign. Oh, gosh. These empires, they just need to go. They need to go. All right. Sonic Warhol said, hey, JB, what did you end up cooking for your birthday dinner? Nothing. I was broke. And I had nothing. I mean, I ate, but I didn't cook anything. When you're broke, you don't have much. But yeah, that's the way it is right now. But anyways, so let's get into the stories that we're going to be talking about today. I really want to get into this. So it's going to be big. All right. So later in the show today, we're going to be talking about Elon's third party. Elon Musk launching a third party. Ooh, I wonder how Donnie feels about that. Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. Because Elon is definitely trying to signal to the people like, I have buyer's remorse. But first, we're going to be discussing the story about flash floods in Texas. this is a lot of people will say this is just about environment and climate. This gets down to the working class. This gets down into, how the people are treated in Texas, and how governments under capitalism really, they will not help neither with the recovery properly or the preparation properly for these. So we're going to get into this. So there is a flash flood that has taken place. This is one of the flash floods that have taken place within recent weeks in the state of Texas. There was a flood that happened in early June. Yes, in June, that happened as well, that a lot of people don't know about. And so I want to share that, as well as this flood that's happening, because this seems to be a trend that's happening now in places like Texas, and this is concerning. When it comes to flooding here in places like Florida, Florida is not as prone to flooding because Florida is basically like a big old sponge, right? Texas, not so much. And so this is why, we can have torrential downpour over and over and over and not endure as much flooding. Now, we still can flood, but nowhere near as much as different areas in Texas. So I want to share this really quick first. And shout out to Delilah Barrios, who actually ran for Texas governor in the Green Party. She actually shared this with me, this story with me about what happened in Texas recently. So let me make sure I get this. So this happened in early June, and then we'll get into what happened just over the weekend. So let's go up to here. So it says all 13 people killed in early June flash flood in San Antonio identified. So there was a flash flood in San Antonio, and how many people knew about that? How many people knew about a flash flood that happened in early June, just a month ago? That's interesting. All right, let's get into this. So this came out on June 30th, just a few days ago. It says the Bexar County Medical Examiner has identified the 13th victim deadly flooding in storms earlier this month. 77-year-old Esther Chung died near Loop 410 and Perrin Beitel on the northeast side. She was the oldest victim recovered. The youngest was 28. And so you can see the cars that were recovered from the floods. Because the victims and their ages, the gender, where they died. And so here's the list of all the victims. We have some that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. So they were all adults. And let's get down to this. It says the storms unleashed more than 6 to 7 inches of rain in just a few hours in San Antonio, causing sudden flash floods across the city. Near Loop 410 and Perrin Beitel on the northeast side, a wall of water swept more than a dozen vehicles into Beitel Creek, killing 11 of the 13 victims. The other 2 victims were found in a separate flood-affected areas near Leon Creek, Highway 90, and several miles upstream. The San Antonio Fire Department, along with San Antonio Police Department and volunteers, including Texas A&M Task Force 1, launched extensive rescue operations. They conducted more than 70 water rescues and saved numerous individuals stranded in trees or stuck in waterlogged vehicles. It says in mid-June, the city of San Antonio and Bexar County issued a joint disaster declaration following the floods. It called for the state of Texas to evaluate the disaster qualifies to request federal assistance for the recovery process. City and county officials said that they specifically seek state support to assist with cleanup, infrastructure stabilization, and any other recovery efforts. City and county officials have initiated investigations, including an independent engineering review of flood control measures around Beitel Creek and Loop 410, while seeking accountability and strategies to prevent future tragedies. The city's attorney's office said it will work with other agencies to conduct a review. The city will also conduct damage survey of infrastructure impacted by flooding. A cost estimate will be shared with the mayor and city council once completed. So this happened just a month ago. And how many people knew about it? Some of you may have known, but many people didn't know. And so why are we just now hearing about this when this should have also been big news as well? So that also happened in San Antonio, sorry. And here is some video that was shared with me from Delilah Barrios about the flooding that happened in San Antonio. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. And shout out to Vanholic for this. They say 36 occupied RVs and 11 tiny homes were swept away in minutes. People screaming for help, but the water was too fast to save them. That was from Kerrville campground manager. All right, so let's get into this. Let's take a look.
This used to be a campground. These are all campsites. You can see the pipes for the RV sewage. It was all full too. All those RVs are downriver, stuck on trees like that one.
So let's go to this part here again.
Stuck on trees. Like it was all
right there. So right here would be the road where you would drive your car or what have you. And on either side of this small road, you would have RVs lined up on either side. And it was full of RVs. And now they're gone because of a flash flood. That's how dangerous these things are. People die. And this happened in Texas a month ago. And now a month later, it happened again. So we're going to get into this right now because this is a serious issue that has recently happened. So let's get into this. So I want to share what happened recently. In another part of Texas. So here we go. So as you guys can see, the flooding is severe. This is what happened recently within the state of Texas. And many people have died. This includes children. This includes 14 children. I'm going to read this article. I think this was shared yesterday, if I'm correct. And some of the updates are from this morning. So this is Texas flooding update. Statewide death toll now at least 70, said officials. At least 67 people are dead after heavy rain lashed Texas, leading to catastrophic flooding. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has said emergency responders remain in a search and rescue posture hours after the flooding along the Guadalupe River inundated nearby areas. So many people have been swept away into an extraordinary catastrophe. He says asking for prayers from residents. At least 21 children are among the dead, including campers from a summer camp in the area, Camp Mystic, where 11 children and an adult counselor remain unaccounted for, according to Kerr County officials at a Sunday press conference. So this is the latest. So it actually went up to almost 70. And so a lot of people are asking the question, where was the warning? Where was the warning? How did it happen? Why didn't the warnings come soon enough? This is from 18 hours ago. This is from in Georgetown, Texas. This is how severe it is. Imagine. Imagine this is your neighborhood. You also can't forget that with floods like this, you also have to worry about snakes, gators. It floods sewer areas, so raw sewage gets into the waters. So even if you avoid the snakes and gators that may come into those waters, you can't avoid the sewage that could also infect you, among other things. And so it's turned also into a major health hazard, on top of maybe electrical outlets, down power lines, things like that, which could also be very dangerous. So this is the result. And a lot of people would say, well, what is this? Is this climate change? Yes, it is. That's part of it. This has a lot to do with it. I want to share this because this also shows the human element. This is what's happening to people. And I think this needs to be shared because you have to humanize the people that are suffering. And it's typically always working poor people. Let's take a look here.
Okay, my house is flooding. Anybody out there? I have my dad on hospice and I need to get him out of here. He's bedridden. He can't walk. He can hardly move. And look where the water is. So somebody, please, we've called 911. It's bad over here. In front of the house, it's like a river. I mean, it's like a lake. They can't come look. We've lost our cars, everything. We've lived here for 30 years, and this has never happened. So anybody, please, if you have a boat or something, I need help. I need to get my dad out of here. It's starting to smell like sewer in here. Okay, my house is flooding. Anybody out there?
As you can see, who does this affect? Who does this affect? The most vulnerable. Here you have a disabled man, bedridden. And now this is happening. And the question is what central planning could have been done to save this? What system could have been there to save people from this? The question is, why wasn't people warned in time? Why didn't we have the apparatuses to help people in time? This is what's going on in this country. And people wonder why some of us didn't even want to celebrate the 4th of July because of this shit. This is why some people say the hell with America. This is why. And you guys are like, America's the greatest country in the world. Is this the greatest country in the world? Is this? Where you have an orange fuckwit that decided to cut the National Weather Service just because it was too much money. Aren't lives not worth it? We don't have a proper central planning model because the central planning model that we have in this country is centered around the billionaire class. It's centered around the parasite class. That's what's so wrong about it. And the thing is, like everybody and their mom is like, oh, but if we have socialism, then we're going to have a dictatorship. Here's the dictatorship. Here it is. There it is, right there. And why in the hell are we sitting here looking at these people like Greg Abbott, Ron DeSantis, Kathy Hochul, why are we looking at these people and going, well, maybe if we just, supplicate to these people? Why are we talking about call your congressman? I'm sick and tired. I'm done with calling them. I'm done. I'm finished. Call your congressman for what? If they don't care, then we shouldn't care about them. This is why dual power needs to be created. It needs to be had. Mutual aid needs to happen because guess what? These people don't give a damn about you, so you shouldn't give a damn about them. They're letting people suffer. And the thing is, it goes across both parties. Both. They do all this. They don't create real good infrastructure to keep us safe. How many times have we seen where torrential downpours happen in New York and then the subways are flooded? So it's not just limited to red states. It's both parties. Both. And so when we talk about both parties are trash, this is what we mean. And shame on Greg Abbott. Shame on him. Because as a disabled man, he should be able to have empathy with people like this. As a disabled man, he should have empathy. But some people who are marginalized will turn into the very same oppressors that that oppress them. I don't care who you are. You could be LGBTQ, you could be black, you could be an immigrant. It doesn't matter. You can turn into the exact same oppressor that has been oppressing you just because you have somebody that's a little bit lower than you. And that pisses me off because that is a colonialist mindset. Decolonize your mind because this is what gets me mad. When we look down our nose at other people just because they are other, just because somebody on a pedestal, on a lofty throne decides to tell us who our enemies are. No. You decide what your enemy is, not them. Not them at all. They're trying to tell you, oh, these people who have very little power, they're the ones who are making your lives worse. No, the dudes at $300,000, $400,000 houses, sorry, not houses, yachts, and $1 million houses, wearing $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 Italian suits. Those are your enemies. And yet you want to believe them? You want to believe them? My God. I'm sorry, but seeing images like this, it pisses me off. Because there's no compassion. Human beings that are being treated like this. No compassion. No kindness. No care. I stayed paused on this image so that you could see, so that you could feel what I feel. And if you're not feeling what I'm feeling, take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, why don't I feel bad for this person? Why don't I feel any type of remorse? Why don't I feel any type of anger for what this person is going through? And what we're not going to do is we're not going to go and point the finger at people in red states and go, well, this is what you voted for. This is your problem. It is not their fault that they're stuck in the same goddamn system that we are in. And then they are given the choices of either die by drowning or die by burning. That's not what we're not going to do. Because they're human beings too. And those of you who voted Democrat, guess what? You guys did some shit too, because you guys voted for somebody who greenlit a genocide. What you're going to do, what you're not going to do, is you're not going to come in and be like Greg Filipkowski. Yeah, hell yeah, I'm putting them on blast. Let's do it. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. Let's do it. Ron Filipkowski says the people in Texas voted for government services controlled by Donald Trump and Greg Abbott. This is exactly what they're getting. This right here is an example of bigoted ass liberals who don't give a fuck about people. This is exactly what it is. Who sit on their ivory towers in blue states while people in blue states are also suffering. So we're not going to do that. Because here you have a liberal that's lacking in compassion too. I bet you this guy doesn't give a shit about people dying in Palestine. And he probably got a Black Lives Matter sticker and a rainbow flag somewhere in his house. But he doesn't care about the Black Palestinians that are being murdered. He doesn't care about the LGBTQ Palestinians that are being murdered. Decolonize your mind. This is the problem. We all our we do this dance where we do this partisanship dance. My team's better than your team. Ha ha, you died, so therefore we're gonna laugh at you. We're going to go, oh, fuck around and find out. And yet, when the other side does it to you, you guys get mad. Neither of you do it. How about neither of you, neither side goes into this game of going tit for tat and lacking in compassion just because they didn't decide to vote for your brand of genocider? How about we walk from both genocidal parties? Huh? What a novel idea that is. Let's walk away from both genocidal parties. Let's either walk towards a third party that's not genocidal or just eliminate all parties. Why not just do that? But you got this guy here. You got Ron over here basically shaming people. And the thing is, like, not everybody voted for Greg Abbott. Not everybody voted for Donald Trump. Not everybody voted for Kamala Harris either. Because some people voted either third party or independent or stayed the hell home. So you're going to blame them as well? You're going to say, well, that's what you get? This is the problem with this empire. Is that it will talk you out of your humanity. It will lead you away from your compassion. Simply to own the conservatives. And the conservatives will do whatever they can and say to own the libs. And that's the problem. We have to stop trying to own people. Because as we know in our history, trying to own somebody makes you morally repugnant. Now, I'm sorry for getting really upset, right? I'm sorry for having an outburst like that. But the problem is that when I said I want to see the world win, I meant I want to see the world win. Meaning, out of the clutches of this system. And then you have Kylie Jane Kramer. What did she say here? She said, I've been trying to wrap my head around how the flooding in Texas became so devastating so quickly. Why not evacuate? Then I saw this. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said the Guadalupe River rose 26 feet in just 45 minutes around 4 a.m. That doesn't even seem natural. Well, I am so glad you have concern about this and how unnatural and an anomaly this is, Kylie, because guess what? Thanks to Carl Jha, he basically said, this you said no such thing as climate change. Well, guess what? I guess you got your answer. How did this happen? You denied the reason. You denied the reason. Science has been telling you guys for years, and some of y'all don't want to believe it. All because you want to keep your fossil fuels. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that we should have a viable energy source, and also the people who work in the fossil fuel industry should have a just transition into a different industry so that it no longer damages our planet. By the way, I believe in that. But at the same time, we need to get our asses off of fossil fuels because that's what's hurting us right now. We need to substitute. We need to switch it over. But the problem is that people like Kylie are like, oh, it doesn't happen. All because she wants to keep her gas guzzler. And don't get me wrong, this isn't me promoting the electric vehicles, even though, some of them are kind of cool. I'm going to be honest with you. We should be promoting mass public transit, high-speed rail. But Kylie here is like, I don't think climate change is actually a thing. When in fact, it's one of the reasons why People are dying right now. And you don't like people coming across the border now? Well, wait until we start having more climate refugees coming across our border. Just wait. Because now the land that they have lived on for centuries, which they want to stay, now they have no choice but to leave. Because now it's becoming ruined. Because of Western civilization. Thank you for sharing that, Carl Shaw. Carl's a real one. I want to share this as well, because I think this should be, this should also come into play. I wanted to see somebody splice these videos together. That's the reason why I'm doing this on Instagram, because I didn't want to have to switch from video to video. But here we go. Somebody shared a tweet from Ryan Grimm, says, I could not possibly be filled with more rage after seeing Texas Republicans blame the National Weather Service forecast for the unspeakable tragedy that hit the girls' camp. You were warned this could happen if you fired everyone, which I do agree. The thing is, it's like, this could happen, right? So let's go here.
On Wednesday, from the National Weather Service, predicted 3 to 6 inches of rain in the Concho Valley and 4 to 8 inches of rain in the Hill Country. We worked with our own meteorologists to fine-tune that weather statement, and as many of you know, and many of you in broadcast journalism and meteorology, you can go back and look at your own forecast, and the amount of rain that fell in this specific location was never in any of those forecasts.
This rain event sat on top of that and dumped more rain than what was forecasted on both of those forks. When we got the report, it was about 7 feet or so on the South Fork, and within a matter of minutes, it was up to 29 feet, and all of that converged at the Guadalupe, and that's where we saw those very quick rise in flood.
But listen, everybody got the forecast from the National Weather Service, right? You all got it. You're all in media. You got that forecast. It did not predict the amount of rain that we saw. The original forecast that we were...
So they under forecasted it. They under forecasted what happened. And you could be, well, Jaybe, how did that happen? How did they under forecast it? Well, Donnie and his wisdom decided to cut it. So let's go here. Texas officials slammed Trump's National Weather Service for botched forecast, as the government weather forecaster has been hit with huge cuts by the president's administration. Thanks, Elon. Thanks, Donnie. All right. Says officials in Texas are casting blame on the National Weather Service for failing to forecast catastrophic flooding that has killed at least 27 people. It is now almost 70 by now. Says National Weather Service is among the government agencies targeted by the Department of Government Efficiency and its effort to gut the federal bureaucracy, losing approximately 600 staffers. After the cuts, the agency, which was already understaffed, began to prepare to offer degraded forecasting services, facing severe shortages of meteorologists, according to an internal document obtained by the New York Times in April. The original forecast that we received on Wednesday from the National Weather Service predicted 3 to 6 inches of rain in Concho Valley and 4 to 8 inches in the Hill Country. Says the amount of rain that fell in this specific location was never in any of those forecasts. So here is the diagram. Not the diagram, but the map. And so here is basically where the river runs through. Now let's continue here. It says sudden thunderstorms dumped more than 10 inches of rain on the area, causing heavy flooding from the Guadalupe River. Dalton Rice, the city manager for Kerrville, Texas, who also spoke at the press conference, said that the catastrophic flash flooding happened because the skies dumped more rain than what was forecasted in two of the river's forks. The flooding has killed at least 43 people so far. Now it's more than that, including 15 children. Now we have more than 21 children. It says more than 25 young girls from Camp Mystic, a Christian summer camp that sits near the river, are still missing. It says, speaking to reporters on Air Force One, Trump called the catastrophe shocking and terrible. They don't know the answer yet as to how many people, but it looks like some young people have died. That's what he said. In May, all 5 living directors of the National Weather Service issued a letter warning that Trump cuts leave the nation's official weather forecasting entity at a significant deficit, just as we head into the busiest time for severe storm predictions like tornadoes and hurricanes. Our worst nightmare is that the weather forecast offices will be so understaffed that there will be needless loss of life. Says a statement to the Daily Beast, the spokesperson for the National Weather Service said, the National Weather Service is heartbroken by the tragic loss of life in Kerr County. On July 3rd, the National Weather Service office in Austin, San Antonio, Texas, conducted a forecast briefings for emergency management in the morning and issued a flood watch in the early afternoon. Flash flood warnings were also issued on the night of July 3rd, and in the early morning of July 4th gave preliminary lead times of more than 3 hours before flash flood conditions occurred. The Times reported in June that just months after the Trump administration had forced out hundreds of staffers, the National Weather Service was granted a waiver to the administration's government-wide hiring freeze. A spokesperson told the Times that 126 staffers it planned to add about a fifth of the number cut were intended to stabilize the agency. So here you have an agency that's already understaffed getting severe cuts, and now people are losing their lives because they did not get the adequate warning that they should have got. Meanwhile, are we still giving tax breaks and incentives to big corporations? Yep. Are we still giving subsidies to big pharma? Yes. Are we still giving subsidies to big fossil fuels? Yep. Are we still giving subsidies to big ag? Yes. Are we still giving billions of dollars to Ukraine? Yep. Are we still giving billions of dollars to Israel? Yes. But we got to cut the National Weather Service. Because the American people aren't worth protecting that much. Trump called it shocking. He's shocked. Who could have saw this coming? And people wonder why. They wonder why people like me are communists. This is wicked. Wicked. Death tolls rising severely. And so my heart is with the people who suffered flash floods back in early June. My heart is with the people who suffer from flash floods just a few days ago. And this is why the system needs to change, because a proper central planning model where we plan around the needs of the people instead of the profits of the corporations would mean that we have a fully well-funded National Weather Service. We would have emergency apparatuses able to pick up, like, for instance, that gentleman that was bedridden, for people in the areas. Honestly, it should have been warnings given to people. Say, this is a flood prone area. You need to pack your bags for at least a week. Have at least 1 to 2 pieces of luggage per person. I would have had the police escort charter buses down neighborhoods. And yes, who would pay for it? The state. Duh. Charter buses. And then anybody who doesn't have a car, right? They get on a charter bus. Anybody that is bedridden is in a registry. Ambulances would come and pick up those people and take them either to the local hospitals or areas where there are shelters where they won't be near flooding. Things like that. Also, what about the infrastructure for taking care of flooding and proper drainage in these areas? And have we changed the ecosystem so much that it can no longer absorb the amount of water that has fallen? And this is why you need an apparatus that actually has a good central planning model that's centered around the needs of the many rather than the wants of a few billionaires, rather than the wants of a few hundred millionaires. Absolutely. All because they want their taxes cut. Well, guess what? Now that's leading to people dying. That leads to people suffering even more. All because you made all this money and exploiting them, and now you don't want to give that money back to the community that you exploited, and so now these people are dying. But that's the cost of doing business, right? This is why capitalism is unsustainable. Absolutely. And so what can we do? We can do whatever we can in helping the people within the areas and where we live. Let me see this. Somebody commented that the KBTX website will have how to assist or help people in that area. I don't know if I can navigate it live on stream because I don't have necessarily a time, but I can. Oh. You see. Let me see. I don't see a link for anything right now. Here's what I'll do. I'll put the link to the website in the chat. If you guys can find it, and if you guys feel like you want to donate for the people. But here's the thing. Here's another thing. People shouldn't have to donate. They shouldn't have to. They literally pay taxes to a government that should be able to help them adequately. So people shouldn't really actually have to crowdfund for help. That's a whole nother thing. But yes, let's continue to help our neighbors and get to know our neighbors for, just in case if anything like this does happen. We can come up with plans of how to help one another if in case disaster strikes. I live in Florida. We are prone to hurricanes. We're literally in the middle of hurricane season right now. Hurricane season doesn't end until November 1st. It started a month ago. So we're in hurricane season right now. And if things, go south and a major hurricane comes, which I kind of feel like in May, are we going to have people who we can get in contact with within our community to help one another out? Make sure you get to know your neighbors and build solidarity with them. My thoughts are with the people in Texas. Thank you very much. Go ahead and like the stream. Let's get into the comments, and then we'll get into our next story. Oh, boy. All right. Let me go into the Rumble side, see if we have any Rumble rants. Oh, we got a Rumble rant here. That's a good question, too. All right. So let's go into this. This is from Nocturnal Human. Thank you very much for the Rumble rant. Nocturnal Human says, isn't Joe Rogan in San Antonio? Maybe when Trump does nothing, he might convince some of his MAGA listeners to stop worshiping Trump. That's a good question. I don't know exactly where Joe Rogan is, but let me tell you right now. Yeah, everybody should stop worshiping politicians. Like they should not be celebrities at all. The celebrification of politicians is something that, really hamstrings the working class. And so I think that we should not do it, on either side. And the problem is, some people that will think that Trump, is doing what's good for the country, when in reality, stuff like this that happen. Thank you very much for that. Let's go into the Rockfin side. All right. All right. Let me share my screen. Roger, thank you very much. She says, I just brainstormed a ballot measure. It came to me while watching Larry talk about small business can use some help from the government. What do you think about this? When governors try to attract big business to come to their state and create jobs by giving them billions of dollars in tax breaks. How about this? A measure that prohibits governors from offering subsidies to billion-dollar companies to come to their state. Offer limited tax subsidies for multi-million-dollar companies. The counter will be, oh my God, how will we be able to bring jobs home to our state? My answer, let the ballot measure be to allow governors to offer what they were willing to offer billions of dollars to subsidies to billion-dollar companies to come to your state. Then instead, take that same money and give it to mom and pop shops, small and medium-sized businesses, and startup worker co-ops. It goes with my national philosophy of don't bring manufacturing jobs back from overseas. And instead, invest in new companies or companies already here. So this is me doing it at the state level, since we don't have a national ballot initiative amendment that allows us to run them at the national level. Imagine what mom and pop shops and those looking to grow their worker co-ops or start one could do with that money for their business. OMG. Now, if we had the ability to place our own amendments and laws on the national ballot, like Switzerland, I would say any budget spending or fiscal bill proposed by Congress must be placed on the national ballot for voter approval before heading to the president's desk for signature, and the president cannot edit it in any way. The last thing I sent in the DM hits it on target. All right, so thank you very much for that. Let me see here. All right, so share this.
Non-binary. Allow you conservative something. You will never get young people to want to conserve a society and an economy that is not working for them.
That is the most important thing that he said. Right there. You will never get the youth to want to conserve an economy and a system that is not working for them. You can yell at them all day, be mad at them all day, do whatever you want all day. Does not matter. They are simply not going to want to conserve. Why would they? It's not working for them. It's not working for them. And that's the issue. And that's the number one piece. This is the part where I'm teasing about conservatives, because he gets it. Most conservatives just insult and use logic. Well, it doesn't matter if the system's not working. It doesn't matter. Right? So, and this is the part that they're not getting. This is the most important piece.
We will not overcome woke nihilism as long as young people are locked out of the housing market, unable to pair up, unable to have kids, unable to plan for the future.
What do I say all the time on this show? I talk all the time about people not pair bonding. All the time. People not pair bonding. Yes. People not being able to buy houses. Yes. People not being able to get ahead. Yes. Why would I want to keep that system? Why would I want to keep? I wouldn't want to keep that system. So you can sit here and be mad all day. And, oh, back in the communist days, communist China, communist Russia. Why do they care? They're unhappy. I speak about happiness all the time. Happy people don't want socialism. Happy people do not want socialism. That's the
happy person.
Unhappy people want socialism. Make the people happy, they won't want socialism. That's the issue that people just can't understand. He gets it. That's the piece. And all we do is annoy people.
Born in 1982, I am what you...
One thing I will push back a little bit on is that this system is designed that way. And so therefore, when it comes to younger people, it's the system is, you cannot finagle a capitalist system to behave differently than what it's intended. Therefore, of course, people are going to go into the opposite direction because it's not working for them. Because every single time we try to make capitalism work for people, what ends up happening is that capitalism then claws back all the gains that the working and working poor have gotten. And so therefore, what ends up happening is, well, people start to want to go to the left because the system is not designed for the multitude of people to prosper. You literally have to put guardrails on it. And then guess what? Capitalism is like a wild horse. If you put a bridle on it, it may stay on for a little bit, but it's going to shake that bridle off and then run wild. That's how it operates. And so you could, say, well, happy people don't want socialism. But the thing is like, oh, you said, look at my DM to counter what Larry just said. I wonder, Roger, if you said exactly what I was about to say. I wonder, because you and me sometimes are on the same wavelength. Let me go into this real quick. I'm curious about that, Roger, because I'm like, what? Let me see. He says the only thing that he got wrong is the very last part. I would say happy people don't want a new system when the current system is working for them just fine. Yeah, because the thing is, like, capitalism will never work for the majority of people because it's not built for that. That's not its purpose. The purpose of capitalism is really to keep the wealth at the top. And so therefore, capitalism in itself, and yes, basically we're saying the same thing, Roger, is that capitalism in itself makes sure is that only the top people have the best. So therefore, capitalism by its very nature is incongruent with the rest of the society. So therefore, happy people actually do want socialism. That's the point. Because once you start to have equity and equality, then that produces socialism. The more you know. That's the thing. And that's my disagreement with Larry. Now, one thing I do agree with Larry about is the fact that in order to make people happy, you have to give them material conditions in order for them to be able to have a happier life. But they can't do it if you do not facilitate it. If you keep facilitating it for a small number of people at the top, then they're not going to be happy, because guess what? All the resources, healthcare, housing, education, food, water, the basic shit is going to the people at the top. And so when you have all the basics going to the people at the top, and then it's squeezing tight that breathing room for people like who are younger than me, I'm 41, right? Then of course you're going to start saying, well, this system doesn't work for all of us. It's not even working for most of us. Hell, it's not even working for some of us. It's working only just for a few little of us. So therefore, that system's bullshit. We need to completely revamp and have a brand new system. And so the system being that workers own the means of production and distribution, and that we have proper social welfare programs that make sure that nobody goes without food, nobody goes without clean water, nobody goes without proper transportation, nobody goes without housing, nobody goes without education. And yes, give these things, because we can pool our resources together as a society, because that's what we are, a society, and we can make sure people have all the basics. So let's go into the rest of the chat just for a minute. Desert Manta says, I'm surprised that there are not more airline crashes, but the understaffed air traffic controllers. That's a good question. That's a good point. John Kevin says, why do you want to save lives, Jaybe? Right? Christino says, order through chaos. First comes chaos, then comes order. Let me see. Robeson says, still waiting on that Defense Department audit and figuring out where the missing money went. $21 trillion ain't nothing to sneeze at. Right? Let me see. James Stark says, military was sent to Los Angeles. No military for Texas? I mean, why wasn't the National Guard sent to Texas? XD says, disgusting. You want to help the poor and the needy. See, XD gets it. Miranda says, here in the Concho Valley, a flood was issued at 1:30 on July 3rd until 7 a.m. July 4th. Another was issued at 2 a.m. July 4th. Hmm. Let's see. James says, here in St. Louis, Missouri, we, the people, are the ones helping the communities devastated by our recent tornado. This is a Democrat-governed city. Wow. Mm. Mm. Jacqueline says, saw another post on Twitter, probably replying to someone about the floods, alleging that the RAF were cloud spraying as early as 1952, and then claimed they used that same technique to cause monsoons in Vietnam. I don't know how true that is, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions, if the intentions were good. Sometimes we don't know if they actually are, but the road to hell sometimes is paved with good intentions. That's a good question, Anisha. I was wondering if anyone saw that in that area saw any chemtrails. What's the point says, when you let lunatics and morons run the show, I don't know what people expect. Until the system is destroyed and built to actually prevent lunatics and morons from hijacking it, things will only get worse. You got a point there. What's the point? Marie says Libya 2011. Yeah, it's just terrible. Fat Man says this is why they're pushing cop cities and AI. They know what's coming, and when the youth give up. GP says, happy people don't want to share. Oh my goodness. All right. Spirit Walker says it works for the greedy takers. Yeah. Sela says, for those in the back row, when Jaybe means basic necessities go to the top, he means that our housing, safe food, clean water, and healthcare gets privatized rather than publicly controlled. Did I say something different? Or did it sound like I said something different? If I did, then I'm sorry, but that's exactly what I meant what Sela just said. Yeah, it's like all of our basic necessities go to the top, or the resources for our basic necessities go to these top people. Part of the reason why that is because capitalism needs an underclass of people to point to so that you agree to be exploited so you don't end up in that same position. That is the tool. Homeless people are really the example that capitalists use to get you to agree to be exploited. They will say, see that person out on the street that's begging for scraps, that's digging through the trash just for food? If you don't accept my exploitation, you're going to end up just like that person. So are you going to take my starvation wages or be out on the street? Which one do you choose? And then people take the starvation wages until they're barely able to keep their head above water because they're afraid of being out there with the rest of the people who are digging through the trash for food, who are sleeping on the streets, who are trying to find shelter in tents and in cardboard boxes. All because the same people that are telling us this have stolen all the surplus labor from the same people that are in fear. That's the system. But thank you for helping me to clarify myself, Seal it. I hope I didn't sound differently. Robbie Bird says, I assume the girls from the camp are largely white, otherwise no one will be talking about it. You get the last word on that one, Robbie. Roger says capitalist believers get frustrated and lash out and call us names, forcing capitalism down our throat, even after trying it their way, and now can't fight the results. And look, Roger, you and I both know. Black folks in this country, we have tried capitalism, and every single time we tried, guess what happened? Our towns get put underwater. Our areas get bombed. They get burned down. Some of our people get murdered. All because we were becoming more successful at capitalism. And then, guess what? Because they don't want us to get too far ahead, because capitalism needs white supremacy to survive, then we end up getting put into the poorhouse because of the exploitative system. And yes, James Starks, and 40% of the homeless have jobs. Yes, they're employed and they're still sleeping out in the streets. If you're not sleeping out in the streets, you're sleeping in their cars. If you're not sleeping in their cars, you're sleeping in motels. And sometimes you're sleeping in motels, not because they can't afford it, because sometimes they do have the money, but they don't have the credit. Because their credit is shot. Because there is one time where they actually had to mess up their credit just to be able to survive, to keep their head above water. And so now, because their credit is shot, they can't get an apartment somewhere because they do credit checks. And because you can't pass a credit check, now you got to go to a motel and lay in there, which the motels are now going extremely expensive, which means that you're paying $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 for a room where you, your spouse, and maybe your kids and your pets got to stay all in one room. Under duress. See, that's the problem. That's the problem with capitalism. Oh, I'm going to end with this one. Roger says that you forgot the most important part: when our own takes on lets capitalist traits and headed exploiting their own. Ooh. Yep. Looking at you, Jay-Z. Or Mr. Carter, Sean Carter. Looking at you, Tyler Perry. Looking at you, Oprah Winfrey. Looking at y'all. Freedmen. Exploiting their own. Crazy on his face. Shame on y'all. But yes, also solid point. Yep, Paul, yep. Lil Wayne too. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's do a shout out to the patrons on Patreon before we move on, because I gotta make sure I say my thank yous. Mom always told me to make sure to say thank you. So this is a shout out to all the patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, RBN would not be the entity that it is today. You see, we try to not just talk the talk, but we try to walk the walk. And part of that walking the walk means doing what we can to push forward in mutual aid and organizing, as well as trying to let you guys know why the system is the way it is, how it came to be this way, and what we can do in order to combat it, to create a new system. And we got to remember that we are our own heroes. So this is how we help. We do so by being informants to you, the people, to let you know what's going on and why it's happening. Thank you so very much to every single person, every single one of you who has supported, whether it's through Patreon, whether it's through channel memberships, whether it's through donating to our mutual aid causes, things like that. We deeply appreciate it. We could not do it without you. You guys are real ones. And thank you so much for that. All right, so let's get into the last section. We're going to get into this. This one, we're going to go a bit lighter here. Elon. All right. Elon's third party. Whew. Look, this breakup just keeps getting juicier and juicier. Ooh, trash can. This breakup keeps getting juicier and juicier. Let's get into this. You know, when couples break up, it's quite sad. I thought they'd be able to, split amicably. But apparently it's quite unfortunate. But Trump got the United States in a divorce. And so Elon he's not dealing with it too well. Those nights of him sitting in his gold-plated shower, crying his eyes out, on his, premium $100,000 Bose stereo screen, playing Celine Dion's All By Myself. Don't want to be all by myself anymore. It's a bitter divorce. It really is. But what comes with grief is anger. And that anger has turned things into something interesting. Let's get into it, shall we? Because I gotta show you guys this. Because Elon just said, you know what? Screw you, Donnie. We're going in a new direction. All right. Let's go.
Tonight, on the heels of President Trump signing his massive domestic policy bill into law, his former close ally, Elon Musk, announcing the formation of a new political party. Musk, the world's richest person, taking to his social media site X to say, "We live in a one-party system, not a democracy. Today, the America Party is formed to give you back your freedom." Musk, who is President Trump's top campaign donor, has been feuding with the president over the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, which the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says will add more than $3 trillion to the national debt over the next 10 years. Musk has referred to the legislation as a debt slavery bill and had been teasing a new political party for days. The Tesla CEO did not respond to questions from NBC News seeking clarity about today's announcement.
The stock market's at an all-time high.
For his part, President Trump has been celebrating the bill. The legislation extends the tax cuts from his first term, reduces taxes on tips and overtime pay, and provides funds for his immigration priorities. It also makes some of the biggest cuts in history to social safety net programs like Medicaid and food assistance.
Okay, let's go back to here. All right. So Elon is basically saying that this is too big of a, it's too much money. Now, believe it or not, There's a couple things I actually agree with Trump on. So extends tax cuts from his first term. I don't agree with that because ultimately it's just for the wealthy. I don't agree with that. Reduces taxes on tips and overtime pay. I actually do agree with that. I actually agree with that. Because the working class should keep more money in their pocket. But to offset that tax, the taxes on the wealthy should go up, not down. That's how I think. Now, provides funds for immigration priorities. He would have been better off with just ending the sanctions and the blockades, things like that. He would have been better off sending the Justice Department to prosecute and arrest the people who are exploiting undocumented immigrants, the business owners, the billionaires. But he's not going to do that. Right? Because he wants to tackle the symptoms, not the cause. And then another thing I heavily disagree with him on is the biggest cuts in history to social safety net programs like Medicaid, SNAP benefits, and all these others, which is going to harm some of the most vulnerable people in our nation. Let us continue on with this.
Food assistance. In Missouri, Kimberly Gallagher is worried about how the bill's new work requirements could affect her and her son's access to Medicaid. Her son Daniel has a rare genetic disorder and autism, and she is his primary caregiver.
Medicaid is in every facet of our life. It's not just medical, it's financial, it's care. And to lose any of those parts would drastically change our lives.
Yamiche is traveling with the president tonight. Yamiche, going back to Elon Musk's announcement of a new political party, what could his approach be here?
Well, Jose, we should note it's not clear at this point if Elon Musk has officially filed paperwork to start the America Party, but he has said that a new party could target just a handful of seats in Congress and then act as the deciding vote on key laws. Jose?
Yamiche Alcindor in New Jersey with...
Okay, so that's what's happening. It's kind of funny. Elon is like, the United States is dominated by two big political parties. No shit, Sherlock. Also, one thing straight. No problem with the United States being dominated by two political parties. Just a few months. Wait. November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. 8 months ago. 8 months ago, you had no problem with it. In fact, you shelled out $250 million in order to buy an election. And then Donald Trump did to you what he does to a lot of people he does business with. He took your money and told you to kick rocks. And now you have buyer's remorse. You're a billionaire that's older than me, right? And you should have known who Donald Trump was before you got in business with him. Because that's basically what it was. It was basically a business thing, right? You knew who he was. You know that he cheated and swindled workers and private contractors back in the day. He did. Same thing for you, Elon. This is just proof that billionaires are not the smartest people in the room. And so now Donald Trump decided to go, well, maybe we should take a look at deporting Elon Musk. Well, I said, whoa, damn. Okay. My goodness. What in the world is going on? Are we living in the Twilight Zone? That was hilarious to me, by the way. That got me going, what? But it's true, right? In fact, Elon probably saw this and he was probably his jaw probably dropped. Like, I can't believe this mother. What? Elon probably saw this while he was on his private jet. Look. So she asks, are you thinking about deporting Elon Musk? Here's what Donald Trump has to say. I'm sorry, guys. I do not have a volume booster. I'll try to be as quiet as I possibly can so that we can listen to the whole thing.
I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put DOGE on Elon. You know what DOGE is? DOGE is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies, Peter. But Elon's very upset that the EV mandate is going to be terminated. And you know what? When you look at it, not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want to have maybe gasoline, maybe electric, maybe a hybrid, maybe someday a hydrogen. If we have a hydrogen car, it has one problem. It blows up, So I'm going to give that one to Peter. I'm going to let Peter start. I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look.
Are you going to deport Elon? I don't know. We have to take a look. Elon's like, we're going to start a new party. We're done with it. We're going to start a new party. Elon got buyer's remorse like a mother right now. Oh my goodness. Elon. How do you feel now? Like, you got to be dying inside right now. $250 million wasted? Oh my gosh. And why am I laughing? Because it's a billionaire parasite actually getting their comeuppance. Don't get me wrong. I ain't cheering for Trump either. But it's like two enemies and they're fighting each other. And you're just sitting back and you're just like, where's my popcorn at? My goodness, this is quality television right here. This is WWE type shit. Let me just sit on the sidelines and eat my popcorn and drink my orange Julius. That's how it feels. How does it feel? Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel. Right? So unfortunately for Elon, that's what happened. But he is trying to start this new political party, which is in itself laughable. So let's go to this article here. Boy. Because Elon is, I think Elon's going to crash out before it's all over. Musk says America Party is formed in the U.S. This happened yesterday. All right. And so it says a day after asking his followers on X, I still say Twitter, I don't care what nobody says, whether a new U.S. political party should be created, Elon Musk said on Saturday that the America Party is formed. By a factor of 2-1, you want a new political party, and you shall have it, he said in a post on Twitter. Today, the America Party is formed to give you back your freedom. Isn't he the same guy that did that weird jump in front of Donald Trump while he was on stage? Isn't this the same guy that did a sage heil twice on stage after the inauguration and then said, "Oh, I'm just giving my heart to you"? Huh. Interesting. Let's continue. Musk spent hundreds of millions on Trump's reelection and led to the Department of Government Efficiency under the Trump administration aimed at slashing government spending. But the two have since fallen out over disagreements about the bill. Trump earlier this week threatened to cut off the billions of dollars in subsidies that Musk companies receive from the federal government. Musk said previously that he would start a new political party and spend money to unseat lawmakers who supported the bill. Republicans have expressed concern that Musk's on-again, off-again feud with Trump could hurt their chances to protect their majority in the 2026 midterm congressional elections. Their on-again, off-again feud. It makes me think about make up to break up. That's all we do. First you love me, then you hate me. That's a game for fools. You know, that's what I think of right now. Like, And you know what's funny? The one thing that most couples break up over is money. Now he wants to create a third party. Here's the thing. Do you think that there will actually be an actual third party that will fight for the actual working class if it's headed by a billionaire? Do we look like Boo Boo the Fool to y'all? Now, I will say this. Here's my biggest thing. This could be, I'm not saying it is, but it could be an in for third parties to really gain ground. Because you know the phrase, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Elon could open the doors for a third party, and then other third parties can reach out, like libertarians, like the Green Party, PSL, and all these others, and go, hey, look, if you want to open up for third parties, you know, let's have a coalition. Now, will it actually happen? I highly doubt it. But could it open the door for other third parties as well? Maybe. Now I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to think, man, we should start abolishing political parties, period. But multiple parties is better than a duopoly. And so when I look at people like Elon Musk doing this, I'm like, are you serious or are you just talking shit? Like Donald Trump, you should put your money where your mouth is, Elon, like you did with Donald. If you're really serious about starting a third party, then that same amount of energy you put into putting for Donald Trump, you should put that same energy in for a third party. And then you should also combine powers with other third parties as well to break the duopoly. But is he really serious about it? I honestly don't think he really is. I think he's just talking smack, to be honest with you. I don't think Elon is actually serious enough to really start an actual real third party, one that actually will threaten the power. And also, even if he did, it wouldn't threaten the power to change the system. It would keep the system as is, so then he could keep as much power as he can. Because it would be a faux party. It would be, I can see it being another Republican Party, just with a different name, right? It's like you got a company that has a blue brand and a red brand, but now they introduce an orange brand, right? Which is kind of similar to the red brand, but it's not exactly as the red brand, but it's a little bit different, just slightly different, right? And so it's like you got you got Frosted Cheerios against, the Honey Nut Cheerios, but then you get the regular Cheerios, and then you get, the Apple Cinnamon Cheerios. So the Apple Cinnamon Cheerios and Frosted Cheerios on one side, the regular Cheerios and the Apple Cinnamon Cheerios are on the other side. And what people aren't getting is that they're all, Cheerios, and they're all under General Mills. So are we actually really changing anything? Because if you have Elon Musk that's heading a political party, what's the difference between that and the Republican Party? Because it's still being headed by a billionaire. What's the difference? So Elon thinks that he can change the system, but does he really expect that his billionaire buddies are going to side with him and promote another third party? No, because they have the power between the two parties already. Why would they give it up? Why would they give up the power that they already have? They're not going to do that. And so this is why I think that it's really a non-starter. Now, one thing he is right about is he said that when it comes to bankrupting our country with race and graft, we live in a one-party system, not a democracy. He is absolutely correct about that. However, that means that the system itself needs to be completely dismantled and rebuilt anew. And Elon's not going to do that. He's not. He's really just a right-wing reformist. That's it. Elon just turned into a never-Trumper. Basically. That's basically all Elon just did. So what else is new? So I tell y'all, don't fall for the grift. Just please don't fall for the grift. And once again, this is the Forward Party 2.0. Remember Andrew Yang with the Forward Party? Yeah. Pepperidge Farm remembers. This is just another Forward Party, except for this one's more right-wing. You remember how they tried to do another party? Oh my God. It was a party with Joe Manchin. I'm forgetting the name of that party. No Labels. I think it was called No Labels, right? No Labels Party. It's the system itself needs to change from the ground up. And the party's headed by a billionaire. It's a non-starter. But that's my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know, because I'm curious. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Whoo boy, that was an interesting one. Who'd have thunk it? Man. Ah, gosh. Oh my goodness. I hate seeing gay couples fight. Anyways, let's get into the comments in the chat. I'm gonna start off with Rock. Let me see. Let's start off with Rumble rants to make sure we have any Rumble. If we have any Rumble rants. All right. Let me see here. Ooh. Let me see. Trying to make sure I get this. Okay. All right. Let's go to this Rumble rant here. Bottom. All right. Sonic Warhol. Thank you very much for the Rumble rant. It says, the generation you lift up with capitalism turns on the following generation and exploits them. Just look at the hippie movement. That's true. That's true. A lot of them free-loving hippies are now the same people that are like, you should pull yourself up by your bootstraps. See, look, I did. I came up with nothing, absolutely nothing, even though my college was damn near free and we had a lot more social safety nets and I was able to have a living wage before that time. But, I came up with, pull myself up by my bootstraps. And so you should be able to do the same too, even though inflation has run amok. Especially since after Nixon took us off the gold standard and put us on the petrodollar, leading us down the path of austerity. And then we also had neoliberal policies that actually started really with Ronald Reagan. Boy, didn't slip. Ronald Reagan has continued down to this day. And now we have austerity upon austerity. And now people just really can't survive. I mean, we can't even... people who are my age, who are in their late 30s, early 40s, can't even afford to live in an apartment by themselves. But people will be like, oh, well, you should have went to school. And then, meanwhile, a lot of them did go to school. A lot of them do have degrees. And a lot of these degrees are now null and void because a lot of these degrees that they got they're being fired because these companies are now turning to AI so they don't have to actually pay people. For sure. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, I guess. Good point. Good point, Sonic Warhol. Thank you very much for that. Let's go into the Rumble. Sorry, not Rumble, but the Rockman. They both start with R's, so I get confused from time to time. Let me see here. Oh, okay. We're good on the Rumble side. Okay, let's go into here. Let me see. Otto says, I live in Texas and we call U.S. Senator Ted Cruz Tel Aviv Ted. It's funny. If he was actually about the people of Texas, you would call him Texas Ted, which would be cool. But he's not about the people of Texas. He's about people of Tel Aviv. So therefore, Tel Aviv Ted actually matches. And doesn't he look like the uncle off of the Munsters? Go ahead and look at the uncle from the Munsters, the old TV show. That's Ted Cruz as a vampire. I know you see it too. Blue Moon, Red Wine. Lucy, she's in the chat, says, hi, Jaybe. I used to think third party helps, but now establishment is doing fake third parties. Inside game doesn't work either, so I've moved on to secession. California, New York, then the rest will follow. Then we implement local demands. I mean, I don't know if secession will actually work or happen, but look, I mean, I do recommend people start local. Especially when it comes to city government, things like that. Go ahead and try it. Do what you can. But I don't know if secession is the answer, but start city by city and state by state. Thank you very much for the super sticker, Scorchy. Appreciate it very much. All right. Oh, yeah. Nikki, it's Grandpa Munster. Sorry, it's Grandpa Munster. Right? Hey, hold up. Let me share. Let me show. Because I'm in a goofy mood right now. Okay. Hold up, y'all. Let me make sure I get this. Okay. Let me share this with y'all. You cannot tell me this ain't Ted Cruz. That is Ted Cruz all the way. Look. That's him. That's Ted. How much you want to bet Ted Cruz doesn't like garlic? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen Ted Cruz in daylight? Mm-hmm. I bet you if you burn some sage, he'll be like, ah! Oh, gosh. I love talking shit about war criminals and people who are terrible towards the working class. Hang on. Y'all, you got it. I'm so stupid. Hang on. Wait. Oh gosh. Oh my God. You know what, Robbie? You're absolutely right. I should not insult the actor. The actor is probably a very genuinely sweet man. And the fact that Ted Cruz looks like him is an insult to that sweet man. I do apologize to that actor. Because Ted Cruz, I mean, hell, Mephisto looks better than Ted Cruz. And I'm talking about the comic accurate Mephisto. If you know, you know. Anyway. Yep. Nikki says, JB 100% correct. That's his family. That's kin. That's kin folk right there. Right, Gone? Right? Sucking the blood not only out of people, but out of society as well. And giving it to Israel. Whew. I'm telling you. Anywho, let's continue in the chat. Oh my gosh. Oh, my stars and straps. All right, let's continue on. Uh-oh. Wait. Ooh. Joseph says he's just going to draw never Trump Republicans mostly, and maybe a handful of centrist Dems. That's probably true. I don't disagree with that. That's something I'm thinking about as well, Joseph. Appreciate that too. James Stark says we need a people's socialist working class run party that is anti-capitalist. I agree. Thankfully, Rome has the Kerr party. Let me see. James Stark says the farmers are working class too. Yep. Make sure I get the people. Let me see. Sheila says that the duopoly is busy fighting him to avoid any of them from leaving. Perhaps it'll be an opportunity for real poor working class parties to work together, be the last group standing. That is a point, Sheila. That's a point. That's a strong point, Sheila. I have to. I can't necessarily combat that one in my head. I'm like, I think I'm like 95% in agreement with you right there. I would have to like chew it over in my head, but at the same time, it's just in this system, there would need to be a whole host of people that are outside of duopoly in order for things to make real change, not just one or two people, because then they would weed that out. You know what I mean? Let me see. And then what's the point says literally Musk was trying to use either part to take over the government for himself. Trump and his buddies didn't want to share, so Musk wants to create another party to do the same thing. I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. Paul says the Bible probably told him not to go out in sunlight. I like you, Paul. I like you. You're making good points there. I love it. Ryan says Tel Aviv cruised. Yep. Oh my goodness. Thank you very much, Curtis. It's a good crowd, JB. Thank you very much. Let me see. Joan, good to see you, Joan. Says, love you, JB. Love you back. Oh my goodness. Oh my days, as they say in the UK. All right, goodness. All right, Roger. I see. Okay. All right. Let's go into the rock fin. He was like, rock fin's ready. All right. What you cooked up, Roger? Okay. He said Elon was talking about a third party to wedge in between both of these parties to use as leverage. Well, check this out. The following states allow voters to run citizen ballot initiative amendments to their state constitution. If they were to run one to abolish all political parties at every level of government, sending congressional members and senators to D.C. not connected to a party, this means 184 congressional seats and 34 Senate seats that can really leverage for their constituency and only give majority based on policy per policy. Arkansas, 4 congressional seats. Illinois, 17 congressional seats. Michigan, 13 congressional seats. Missouri, 8 congressional seats. Montana, 1 congressional seat. North Dakota, 1 congressional seat. Ohio, 15 congressional seats. Arizona, 9 congressional seats. California, 52 congressional seats. Colorado, 8 congressional seats. Florida, 28 congressional seats. South Dakota, 1 congressional seat. Massachusetts, 9 congressional seats. Wait, Massachusetts has 9, whereas Florida has 28? I thought there were more people in Massachusetts than there were in Florida. I'm tripping. It says Nebraska, 3 congressional seats. Nevada, 4 congressional seats. Oklahoma, 5 congressional seats. And Oregon, 6 congressional seats. All right. So thank you very much for that, Roger. Oh, he says now. Whoop. Sorry. One more came in. He said, now that's leverage for your constituency. Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Roger. All right. So the Moon says our government is filled with the evil versions of the monsters in Addams Family, plus the villains of DC and Marvel. Oh my goodness. Yeah, true. Very true. All right. Marlo says there wasn't black supremacy in Egypt, though, because there wasn't any concept of race back then, even though throughout entire Asia history, almost 4,000 years. So I don't know, maybe you're thinking of a specific ruler that was black. Oh, you're talking about something else that people are talking about in the chat. Okay. And that's true. No matter what it is, neither gives a ish about the force. Yep, absolutely. All right, so I'm going to head on out because it's time for me to go. I got to start dinner. What's for dinner, JB? I'm so glad you asked. I'm making chili tonight. So it's going to be a good dinner. And I got to say this. All right, so I might be a little cranky for the next few days because I'm counting calories now. Don't blame me, blame Sabby, because Sabby was the one that influenced me to start counting calories. She didn't tell me to do it, but she influenced me. And so now I'm counting calories, and I've been going to the gym every other day for the last couple of weeks. And so now I'm a little bit cranky because I didn't get the right. I'm calorie counting now, and I'm trying to make sure I have enough calories for dinner. You know, I didn't spend all the calories that I'm supposed to have in a day for dinner. Am I hungry? Yes, I'm hungry. Sabby, if you're watching, you did this to me. You completely did this to me. Anyway, it's probably working on me, though. But it's, you know, it's for me to be the best version of myself. But anyways, so everybody, I gotta get going. Oh, and wait, do I have it? I think I'm just doing news stories on Tuesday. Hang on. Look the calendar. Oh yes, Tuesday is going to be Nico House is joining me on my channel. So you guys will get to see me with Nico on this Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on my channel. And of course, there will be some readings that will be coming out again soon. Of course, I started back my readings again to make sure I keep up with that. So if you guys would like to, you guys can go to the readings. And they're also in the playlists on my channel as well. So you guys can take a look at that. So thank you very much to everybody for tuning in. Did I have something funny to share? Sometimes I like to close with like a funny video, but sometimes I don't have one set up. I don't think I have anything set up. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Yeah, we shall we'll talk about some things that are happening in the news on next Wednesday. I'm sorry, next Tuesday. So we'll talk about that. Anyways, time for me to go. Water your plants. Water yourselves. Leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. Thoughts and support and solidarity with the people in Texas that are suffering from these floods. You know, especially the ones that have suffered in early June as well as this weekend. Our hearts are with them. And do not allow the corporate dictators, the parasite class, to tell you who your enemies are. The corporate dictators and the parasite class are going to try to make it look like they're actually fighting for real democracy, when in reality, they're just fighting for their own power to maintain it. So, like Kit always says, keep your head on a swivel. And don't trust billionaires. Just don't trust them. All right, everybody. Take care. All right. Forehead kisses. Mwah. You guys have yourself a beautiful Sunday. I'll see you guys next time. Deuces, Bruces.